Welcome to part 3 of my rammed earth house construction series. In this video, I'll be covering the roof construction. This is one of the most important stages because once the roof is done, the space really starts feeling like a home. This entire structure was built by me, mostly working alone. So everything you see in this video, every cut, every weld, every tile, was done step by step, slowly over a period of time. I started preparing the steel members. For the purlins, I used 1 by 1 inch square tubes, and for the main support beams and the rafters, I used a 4 by 2 inch rectangular sections. First, I took careful measurements. I marked them carefully on the rods using a simple chalk piece. No fancy tools, just patience and attention. You have to be very careful with the measurements. Even a 1 centimeter deviation would cause a lot of rework at a later stage of time. These 4 main beams are placed directly on top of the rammed earth walls. Since I am not using any pillars, the entire roof load must be distributed through the walls. That is why the beams are critical. They spread the weight evenly across all 4 sides. I'll be placing the rafters, purlins, and the entire weight of the roof will be distributed through these 4 beams. To hold the beams in position, I welded small supports so everything is aligned. If the roof load is not properly distributed, especially in a structure without pillars, it can create stress points. So this stage required a lot of care. When using the roof tiles, you will notice small latches at the back. These latches sit on top of the rafters. Different tile manufacturers have different spacing requirements, so before fabrication you must check the tile dimensions. Otherwise, after welding everything, you may realize the tiles don't align properly. The spacing between the rafters has to be precise. If it is off even slightly, the latch will not sit correctly. Cutting the rafter also involves some math. There are online calculators where you can input the roof dimension and it gives you the angles and lengths. It's interesting because you end up using concepts from school, but now in real life. After installing the rafters, I added a layer of bricks on top of the wall. Since rammed earth walls are exposed at the top, this brick layer gives extra support and protection. Ideally, a concrete belt on top would increase the structural stability, but since this is just a small room of 10 by 8 square feet, I decided not to use concrete. The walls had already been exposed to rain for almost a year before I started with the roof, and they held up very well. I was lucky during fabrication. The weather was mostly cloudy. Welding under the direct hot sun is very exhausting. The welding quality is extremely important. When strong winds hit the roof, pressure can be very high. If welds failed, tiles could come down. So I made sure every joint was properly welded and checked. I choose a hip roof, sloping on all four sides. I like the aesthetics of this design. It looks balancing and strong. This project had no strict timeline. I worked mostly on weekends or holidays. After completing the walls, nearly a year passed before I started the roof fabrication. Working slowly allowed me to observe how the structure behaved in rain and sun. I sourced second-hand tiles from the local market. They are much cheaper than the new tiles, but you pay in time. Every tile must be cleaned. Some need repainting. Almost all the tiles need the repainting. I laid out as many tiles as possible and used a pressure car washer to clean them. Doing this alone is a heavy work. There was no deadline, so I worked only when I felt like it. That freedom made the journey more enjoyable. For painting, I used Apex Tile Guard. That was the only one available in the local market. I wanted a natural look, so I chose a lighter shade. I used a paintbrush, so this saved a lot of time and also it saved the usage of paint. I diluted the paint slightly more than recommended because I didn't want an artificial look. I just wanted a light enhancement. After painting, I left the tiles in the sun to dry properly. I carefully looked at each of the tiles for any damages or minor cracks. If there are any minor cracks, you should remove them because very soon it will start cracking and you will have leakages during the heavy rains. Once the tiles are dry, I stack the tiles near the roof. So this way you can save some effort in picking up the tile and placing it on the purlins. The latch at the back is the key. It must sit properly on the rafter. Once hooked correctly, the tile stays in place. Then you continue placing the tiles row by row. I still remember the first time I stood under the finished section of the roof. For months, I had worked directly under the sun. The first time I felt the shade, I still remember that feeling. You only understand the value of something when you know what it feels like without it. After the main rows were completed, I started working on the joints. At edges and corners, the tiles needs to be cut. I used an angle grinder for this. For the top ridge, a V-shaped ridge tiles are required. The local vendor did not have the stock, so I had to wait. I completed the flooring using soil and cement. I'll be putting the tiles on top of this. Working with clay gives a lot of flexibility. I use this mortar to fill in the gaps in the window frames. Solar construction is nothing but pure joy and an ocean of learning. Not just about the construction, but the ways in which we think, react to situations, and handle the crisis. So, thank you for watching.